Hey Luke, I just heard you saying something interesting about this crop. You said the trouble with this crop is all you got to do is just plant it.
Well, I was trying to explain. You were asking me questions about what I've learned and what I do different and this and that. And I don't know, we just planted it and it grew and it's beautiful.
You mean you didn't have to go in here and work the ground 3 times and then rotary hoe and tine weed and cultivate?
No, I didn't have to watch for weed pressure early on or be on top of much other than getting it planted. End of August, first week in September, and it kind of did its own thing from then on.
So what do you do this fall then when you harvest it? You got to get ready for next year and plant some more or what?
Harvest it and wait till next year and they'll be back.
Okay. Well, on a serious note,
Yep.
This is the second year on this crop.
Yep.
And we planted in what, late August 2018, wasn't it?
Yep.
And we had an equal stand as far as height and seed head production last year as we do right now, the way it looks.
Yeah, and looking at it, I think it's more even and a little more uniform the second year around than last year.
So
which makes sense.
So in 18, the summer of 18, we had wheat in this field, didn't we?
Yeah.
And then we worked the wheat ground.
Yep.
Applied some hog manure, I think about 2,000 gallons.
Okay. Yep.
And then planted the Kernza right around the 1st of September.
Yep.
And what? I think Ryan said we were right at 15 pounds of seed per acre, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Yep.
And then walked away from it, really.
Basically, yeah.
And then come the following spring and summer of 2019, watched it grow. We were a little nervous in the spring. Remember, we were out here after the snow was melting?
And it was wet. Yep. We had water standing in the field, and we were worried about that. We tried getting the water to run off. And as the season went on, everything came through, even through the wet, bad, low pieces of the farm here.
Yeah, we were nervous about it. In fact, we were out there trying to drain some of the water off, and then we had it all drained, and then a week or two later, another flood almost.
Yep.
But like you said, it came through beautiful.
Yeah, and the farm varies from low ground to high ground, and it's nice all the way through.
It is. It's got that uniform look, and I know the people at the university say you're going to have uneven height because it's not a hybrid variety, so it's all kinds of genetics in here.
Yeah.
But it's uniform. So after the summer, we were watching for it to ripen, and I know Don Wise from the university was here when we were getting ready to harvest it. And what we noticed is a week earlier, I think you remember, we got the combine ready, and we were going to try and straight cut this right below the heads and see if we could harvest it with a draper head.
Yep.
With a bean head is what it was in the draper head. But it was green.
Yep.
And remember what the problem was? It was that the head was ripe and the
stem stayed green.
Stem stayed green.
Yep.
And so we went 50 feet, shut her down, and went home.
Was it right in that same period that you watched the seed head tip?
It was exactly that same period. The seed head started tipping. But the day we were out here with the combine, at least 60-70% of the seed heads were still straight up.
Within a day or two.
Within a day or two, those seed heads started tipping like this.
Yep.
And that was the day Don Wise came out. And we were trying to determine the moisture and everything. And we decided that was the day to cut it.
Yep.
And the crazy thing is you came out here then and started windrowing it.
Yeah.
And I know we were going to leave one cut on this edge just in case. Mm-hmm. But by the time we got through the field,
we knew that we were doing the right thing.
We were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Surprising thing was the next day, wasn't it?
Yes. That we were harvesting? Literally the next day, yeah.
And what I couldn't believe is these stems were green when we swathed it.
Yep.
And the next day they were dry and went right through the machine.
Yep. And that it wasn't so much of a risk because we had cut it high and left it lay on top of the stubble, which we were kind of nervous about. And we had rain in the forecast, I think, the following day.
Yes.
coming. So we were kind of nervous about catching an odd rain and packing it down into the stubble. But with it drying that fast, we were able to swath it in our short window, come back and harvest it.
Right, and so, yeah, that surprised all of us, and we were really glad because you don't want to leave this in a swath if it's going to rain. It's just going to impact the quality so fast.
Yeah.
Well, then we harvested it, and because what we did then is we came through with a rotary mower and just chopped it all off.
Yep.
But right before that, we had we spent some more hog manure, didn't we?
We broadcasted 1,000 gallons an acre, about 40 pounds a N, right over the top, with rain in the forecast. Because I think they broadcasted the manure the same night that we harvested it, and then we got a rain the next day. And it was a nice low rain, pulled everything down in the soil where it needed to be. And then we had that root mass to take up all the nutrients that we had laid down. And then from after you mowed it, after that, you mowed it pretty short.
Right, I got down about 4 or 5 inches, yes.
I think the idea there, we were talking about if there were any Canadian thistle or any weeds or anything, we would set them back. And from there, we basically just watched it and kept an eye on things and did its own thing. I came out here, I think in January.
Okay.
And it was 15 below zero.
Okay.
And there was a snowpack that I had to dig down about 2 feet deep. I dug a big 8-foot circle, pretty much right here, right where we're standing.
Okay.
And there were new shoots, new with smooth, pointy tips on, that had grown after you mowed it, and it was green as grass in January.
So having a stubble like that looks like it catches the snow.
Yeah.
Covers it, protects it nice in the winter.
Yeah.
It's moisture for the spring.
Yep.
You got that microenvironment. And you know, people talking nowadays about soil microbes. Can't imagine what they were thinking.
All winter?
All winter.
I'm sure they were happy.
Exactly. I mean, we go south for the winter. They don't even have to go south.
They didn't have to. They had their snowpack.
That's
We had stubble to hold it.
Right.
Yep. And they had a living root to eat on all winter.
Absolutely.
And the ground, honestly, I dug down with a spade in January, and it was 15 below.
Really?
I dug down through the dirt that was loose in January. Part of it was because we had the deep snowpack,
Yes.
but the ground wasn't hard and solid, froze.
So that would say, at least hopefully, that in the spring, maybe a lot of that moisture would go down instead of running off.
Yeah, well, that and I think just having the stubble with no tillage held the snow, and that created that thermal blanket. And then also just keeping the microbes moving off the living roots kind of maybe kept the soil at a good moderate temperature where things could keep going.
See, and that's the thing they talk about with Kernza, is that it's got those ecosystem services. And that's obviously one, feeding the microbes, but it's also sequestering the carbon,
Yep.
building the soil health,
Yep.
All those benefits. Cover crop, keeping the soil covered,
Yep.
protecting it, keeping the snow here instead of in the windbreaks of all these farm sites.
Yep.
It's just a win-win-win across the board.
Yep. And the root mass below ground is greater than what we're standing in right now.
Absolutely.
So, and if we can, keep harvesting just the grain.
Yep. Because if you read any literature at all about soil, they say organic matter is really built from the root mass rather than what's above ground.
Yep.
So that again speaks to the benefits of it.
Yep.
So then this spring, we were looking at it, and I remember I walked out here a couple times, and I thought, this doesn't look very good. It was all uneven, scrawny looking, short heads, and
We had a dry spring.
we had a fairly dry spring, yes.
We hit an inch of rain around the 3rd or 2nd week in April. And then after that, we didn't get any rain for quite a while.
Right.
I don't know, was it a month?
Yeah, if it was anything between, it was less than a half inch each time.
Yeah, nothing significant.
Right.
And you could tell that it was looking for some moisture. It was uneven, and it was very short. And I kind of thought, well, this year might not be that great.
Right.
But I came back after we hit a half inch of rain, and it just took off like nothing ever happened.
that's the same thing I absolutely noticed as well. It just blossomed.
Yep.
And now I was walking through here maybe a week to 10 days ago, and I noticed most of the heads were just flowering.
Yep.
They were starting to shoot that pollen flower blossom.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like most of it is pollinated right now.
Yep.
And I know university people, Dr. Youngers and all, are saying that you should keep track of that date of flowering. They didn't give me a harvest date, but they said keep track of that date because it will be a pretty good indicator of when it's ready to harvest.
Yep. I think today or yesterday was the last day of pollination. I just pulled some seed heads up further that had pollen hanging off of them still. So this is probably the end of it now.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Was one other thing. Earlier this spring I was also nervous because I'd come out here and I saw little white pieces coming off of the tips of these heads.
Yep.
And I had no idea what it was, so I took some good pictures of it, sent it to the university and sent it to the Land Institute. Mm-hmm. And they said that looked like damage from frost.
Yeah. Yep. We had an early frost.
Right. When was that? Was that in May when we had that 28 degrees?
Yeah. Second week in May?
I know it is now because we were waiting to plant corn. And we never plant before that cold snap in May.
Fishing opener
In Minnesota.
May 15th.
That's right.
It was that weekend.
Yes.
Yep.
And I talked to Dr. Anderson at the university, and he said, yeah, air temperatures, I think he said May 13th or 12th was 28 degrees for a significant number of hours on one of those days.
Yep.
And what he was saying is it might have impacted this seed head when it was still down there way in the bottom of the plant.
Sure. Yep.
So we know that it does have some concerns there, but looking at it now, it doesn't seem like it was an issue.
So it went through a wet year, it's went through a dry year, we've had a freeze on it, and we still have a nice crop.
Right.
Not to jinx ourselves, but...
And of course, you and I have been exploring which ways can we harvest it.
Yep.
And last year I worked with several people at the university, and we were able to try 3 different ways. What we did here, of course, was windrow it and use a belt pickup. Mm-hmm. At 2 places down in southwestern Minnesota, one we used a draper head and straight cut it, and the other we used a stripper head, which just takes the seed head.
Yep. And
looking at what I experienced last year, that draper or that stripper head would be ideal.
Yep. If we don't have any noxious weeds that can come in with the seed heads.
Right.
Maybe.
And if we have a fairly uniform height.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that if we can take just the stripper head, we can avoid getting a lot of the green stem.
That's true. And it's taller than any weeds that would maybe be out here.
Right, even if you look at some of these thistles, they're fairly low.
Yeah.
And so we can get a much nicer grain quality right in the hopper of the combine.
Yep.
It'll dry easier, stay in condition easier, and it'll be a better marketable product.
Yeah, less of a risk in the fall.
Right. But if you take a draper head, you got to cut a little bit lower just so that you can get it to feed in.
Right.
So you're going to get more of the green stem.
Yep.
The advantage of the windrow is that the stem is all dry, but you cannot predict the weather.
Yeah.
And so there's always those ups and downs, and that's why we're really looking at that stripper head as the option.
Right.
The other piece about the stripper head is, remember we said that this stem is green when we harvest. Well, what some producers are doing and others are thinking about is after we take this head off, come right behind, cut, windrow, and bale straw, and it could be used for forage or for bedding.
Yep. And then you'd have the whole plant.
And you'd have the whole plant.
Because when you come through with the swather, you're trying to decide, should I take it low if I want the straw, which might be too much material for the combine to take in.
Right.
So there is an advantage to the stripper head.
Definitely.
You're left with more options. And for wildlife, if you just want to take the seed and leave the straw behind, it virtually would look not much different. It just would be this much shorter.
Right.
And that would be That'd be nice too. And then if a guy had it fenced in, you could come out here and graze it if you wanted to.
It would be beautiful for grazing.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
So with the stripper head, you have all those options.
Right.
With less risk.
Mm-hmm. So we're definitely looking into that, and
Yep.
I think that's the whole thing about this Kernza crop is we're still learning so much.
Yep.
From all aspects. How heavy to plant, when to plant, whatever, how to harvest, when is it ready to harvest. But we're gathering the data,
Yep.
and it's coming through a lot more to know what we should and shouldn't do.
Yep. Yep.
So, what do you think about if this crop continues to develop like it is,
Yep.
and continues to be what we'd call a viable revenue source, a money-making source in a rotation?
Mm-hmm.
Ever thought about how you might fit it into a rotation?
Yeah. It would be incorporated probably with livestock,
Okay.
row crops, and annual small grains. It would just be another part of our already diverse mix. It would just make it that much better. Just adding another crop, but I'd be gaining so much more from this crop just because I'm simply leaving the soil rest and then letting it take in the full cycle of the year of building up, its root mass and then pumping all that sugar into the ground.
And those are sort of the same thoughts I had, and I think it's sort of what you and I have been talking about, being that we're going to be introducing a cow-calf herd into the system.
Yep.
And we're just thinking about all the different ways that we might be able to.
This would help. This will definitely help move that forward. Introducing livestock.
Absolutely.
Because the straw is very valuable. And then we'll have the forage if we need it. If we have a failure in a crop, we have a backup plan that we can use it for. So.
Yeah, and I know the university station at Morris has been doing some grazing research on it.
Yep.
And what they're doing is grazing it early in the spring before it starts to what they call elongate.
Yep.
And then take it off at the right time, let it go to maturity, harvest the grain, and then in late September, October, graze it again. So it's a really multi-purpose
Yep.
crop. And plus, if you can graze it, you're going to have the livestock fertilizing it for you. So,
And this is what happens when you can introduce a third or a fourth crop, is you can just get that much more creative. You have that many more options out there.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this, and we hope that the people now who are going to be able to watch this for a virtual field day on July 22nd will be able to get some good ideas out of this. And they should certainly feel free to be in touch with us if you got more questions, and more importantly, get in touch with people at the university and talk about it, because I know the interest is growing. And, I know one other thing we didn't talk about, markets.
Okay.
We're still developing markets, but from what we've talked to people about, it sounds like there is a growing interest in the markets.
Yep.
We've heard about the craft breweries,
Yep.
but you've had some talk and chatter with some people are using in the baking industry. Anything you need to add about that?
I think they're at the same stage we are.
Okay.
We're trying to figure out how to grow it. We're new at it, and they're trying to figure out how to use it. There's definitely some uses that they can use it for, and then it works really well for different things.
Okay.
I know, like on the bread side of things, it might not make the best bread flour, but it makes wonderful pancakes.
There we go.
And it makes a wonderful cracker.
Excellent.
So, and like you said, beer. What more could you want? It's like,
Hey, grain belt always had the grain field.
Yeah.
Why not the craft breweries, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Good. Well, gosh, I guess we can only look forward to this crop really.
and as far as the market goes, since it is so new, it does make me a little nervous going into the marketplace with it.
Okay. Why is that?
I kind of feel you can feel alone out here with a little small farm with a little field of Kernza, wondering who you're going to sell it to.
I'm glad you brought that point up, because what some of us have been doing, and you've been involved with this, is we're working on structuring a marketing co-op. so that, right now we're pushing probably by a year from now something over 1,000 harvestable acres in the state.
Yep.
But with this co-op, we hope that we can accumulate those acres so that we can speak to the market with one voice.
Yep.
Not that we would let one person buy it all, but we would at least be able to negotiate what we would call equitable market prices. And we know right now the price discovery on Kernza is all over the board. So that would be a major piece of the Kernza co-op as well. But there's one more piece, and I keep emphasizing this, and that is paying the farmer for the ecosystem services that this crop provides.
Yep.
It's something that we haven't been able to do with the crops that are out today. But many of us wanted to start right from the get-go, making certain that we are monetized for, or that the crop is monetized for its ecosystem services as well.
Then as a farmer, I can start looking at this food system like in a systems approach mindset. Instead of just trying to pound every pound or bushel out of every acre every year that I can, I gotta step back and realize that this is a finite resource and it won't last forever. And there's some costs that go along with maintaining it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, we always talk about maintaining soil health.
Yep.
And that has to be our number one goal.
Yep.
Because it's what allowed me to be able to hand over this operation to you.
Yep.
In part because of the soil health that we were able to build over the years.
And becoming new into farming, there's a lot of talk out there about that we have a carbon issue. So looking forward, it can get a little kind of wondering what the future will hold, like what is the best option to go forward with. And when you look at where we're headed with Kernza, there's some even ground here. A realistic approach to going to the market with something that's financially viable, and something that will also help me build fertility and manage weed control and move forward more sustainably.
So, yes or no? You feel confident in recommending farmers look into growing Kernza?
Yes.
Good. I feel the same way.
I don't feel like I feel like we don't have a choice.
Okay.
In thinking about agriculture, at least moving this into part of our rotation, this idea into our already existing rotations, and starting to work on some of these issues that we're going to be faced with in the future.
Good. So. Thanks, Luke.
Well, thanks you.
Now we're going to have to wait for harvest.
Good. Yep.
Good.
Good.